So that is how I have broken down this. Okay. And why is that important? Because when you read this week, you need to know who's speaking when and to whom. Okay? And that will help you better understand the breakdown of the poem. Okay? So that's what I have here. Everyone good? Yes, Ricky. Hold on. Grab the microphone.
On the Songs of Songs in the Bible, when you say beloved and the lover, you're speaking to human, like Solomon and the bride, or?
Yes, you could say that. The lover is Solomon, or the man, and the beloved is the woman to whom he's wooing.
It's not referring to God in the church.
The lover is God, the beloved is the church.
So in the Songs of Songs, this is, when you read this right here, like on chapter 'This is something about the dove. I'm here, my yeah, something about my dove,
There are several places where the lover describes his beloved as a dove. Throughout the whole thing. That's one of the symbols.
Oh, here, chapter 5. I have come to my garden, my sister, my bride. So this is God speaking.
Yes.
To the people.
Yes.
So when you read this chapter, this songs, this is the dialogue here is between God and the people, not actually a male and female.
It's a male and female. That's the literal sense. You could think of it as Solomon and one of his brides-to-be. On an allegorical sense, it is God speaking and wooing to his church, or to you in particular, in the church. Okay? In the same way that God was speaking to Israel in the same way, which is why he sent the prophets to tell them how deeply offended he was that they were worshiping other gods, because this is his love heart for them. You see that? The reason why I broke it down in this manner, so you know when the lover and the beloved are speaking, is so that you can get a sense of this love relationship that's being developed between these two people. And that's a very important theological understanding. It's not that God overwhelms us and takes us into him and we have nothing to say or do or respond to it. It is a mutual understanding. It is God, if you will. This is the mystical teaching, if you will, of this and of our Christian mystics, is this sense of mystical marriage. I'm sure you've heard of that before. And it's this idea that God comes to us and we give ourselves to him in this way, like a lover and a bride. And the best analogy for that is the wedding chamber. That's how both parties, male and female, give themselves to each other in this intimate union. In the same way as how God approaches and becomes united to us, in the sense that we become transformed by him. Okay? So as you read it, you can think of it that way. This is God speaking, the lover. This is my response. This is God speaking. This is my response. But it's done in the form of this play, this dialogue between a man and a woman in the courting relationship. Now, here's another little secret. I'll let you find this, but I will tell you this. In the Song of Solomon, there is a movement from courting to wedding to post-wedding. how the love continues before, during, and after. Those of you who are married or considering marriage, that's an important lesson to be gleaned from this, is that there is the wooing, the gaining, and the continuing of that love. There is an ever enlargement of the love. It just doesn't stop at the wedding. It doesn't stop at the courtship. Okay? Does that help?
Yes.
Real quick.
On chapter 5, it says here, verse, I don't understand this. It says 1G, I have come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I gather my myrrh and my spices. I give my honey.
Those kinds of specifics we will get to as we begin to unpack the whole song. Right now, the first thing I want you to do is just get a sense of the dialogue and the sense of the main ideas. The specifics, you can garner some understanding by looking at this, but I want you to have the experience of sitting with it and asking those questions and looking for the bigger picture first before we start going to the specifics. Does that make sense? It's not that I'm dodging your question, but that's the whole point of our study through it, is that we're going to go through and we're going to get through the specifics.
What does the G and the D and the B stands for? On my Bible it says here.
Oh, those are probably footnotes,
Oh, footnotes. Okay.
so that you would look down there and see what they're referencing.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. All right. Ooh, I'm so excited. We're right on time. All right. So, where am I? Who am I? Here we go. I'm just looking at the time, and this is a perfect time to actually stop. So for next week, your goal is to read the entire song. Now that you have the breakdown, so you know who's speaking to whom, I did not want you to leave tonight without knowing that. Because if I were to just give it to you cold, even in here, it doesn't break apart as clearly as it could who's speaking to whom and when. Okay? Because that's important in your understanding of the song. And then as you've read through the whole thing, I want you to outline it. How would you break this down? How would you break it down? I'm fully aware that they give you an outline. You can say, I like that outline, and move on. Or you could say, you know, as I break this down, how would I outline it? Because in here, it's got my cheat sheet notes as to the breakdown of the courtship, the wedding, and the post-marriage parts of the book. And one of the things that I looked in here, and I don't believe I saw, so I'm glad that they didn't, is what do you think, if you had to pick one verse as representative of this whole book, what would it be?
Love.
Okay? What would be the one verse? And let me give you some background to this. In every Bible study I've done here at St. Charles, from the beginning, I've given you a theme verse for the book. So those of you who are young adults, do you remember what the theme verse was for the Gospel of John?
John 6.
John 20:31. These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. I would argue that verse summarizes the entire raison d'etre of the Gospel of John. Yeah, it's a fancy word, just say the reason for being. That's the whole point of the Gospel of John. These are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Everything else that happens in the Gospel of John focuses on that. Now, all of you who are snickering at the young adults for not knowing their memory verse, those of you who studied with me the Gospel of Luke, aha! The Young at Heart Bible study group, what's the theme verse for the Gospel of Luke?
With God, nothing is impossible.
That could be a good verse. That's not the one I proposed, but that's a good idea of a verse that could hang the entire gospel on. With God, nothing's impossible. I like that. Yes? Okay.
Saving souls. Something about, he came to seek and to save souls.
That's it.
To seek and to, oh yeah.
Luke
those-
19:10.
Seeking to find the lost.
For the Son of Man has come to seek out and to save that which is lost.
I know Luke 10:19.
So again, that is what I would argue is the theme verse for the entire gospel. Now, Revelation. What would you guys say is the theme verse for the book of Revelation? Marie?
Okay, 2 Peter 3:18. But to grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to him be the glory both now and to the day of eternity.
That's the theme of our Bible study, yes. And I would argue that that is the theme of the entire book of 2 Peter. Is the very last verse. It summarizes the whole book. What is the theme verse for the book of Revelation? Does anyone remember?
The last,
Chapter 1, verse 1.
no.
Oh, that's good.
He who has an ear, let him hear.
To repent.
No point of the gospel is the unveiling of Jesus and the church. Revelation chapter 21, verse 9. The new heaven and new earth.
No.
Heal it.
I'll let you stew for it for just a little minute. We got a few minutes.
Chapter 1, verse 3.
No. That's the first blessing. Yes?
Yeah, almost there.
No. That wasn't it. It's how I structured the entire outline of the whole book. That's a hint. No? All right, time's taking us. I'll let you know. Revelation 1:19. Write down the things which you have seen, the things which are, and the things which shall shortly take place hereafter.
Revelation of God given to Jesus.
That is the theme verse because everything hinges on that. What you have seen, which is chapter 1 stuff, the things which are, which is chapters 2 and 3, and the stuff that will happen shortly thereafter, chapters 4 through 22. That's how you outline the entire book of Revelation on that one verse.
The grace
Marriage
of the Lord
and
Jesus
liturgy.
be with God's people.
I'm sorry?
The grace of the Lord Jesus be with God's people. No.
No, I wouldn't say that that summarizes the whole thing.
Marriage and liturgy.
Those are themes within the book of Revelation. I'm thinking about a verse that encapsulates the entire book. So these are examples of what I'm showing you from past Bible studies of how to find it. I want you to read the entire book of the Song of Solomon and find out what is the theme verse. What would be one verse that would be representative of the entire book of the Song of Solomon?
Chapter 6, verse 15, my just
Okay.
Oh, get ready, the time is near.
I'm my beloved and my beloved is me.
Ah,
I like that.
good. Next week you're going to come by and defend that. Very good.
Hindi na sa Revelation.
So, and then the last thing beyond finding the theme verse, as you've read through the whole thing, what are the main ideas and themes that you have found in reading it? Then next week, we are going to spend some time doing just what we did here. We're going to go over it, and then we're going to get into some of the details of the first chapter. All right? And then I'm going to give you more in depth to do on your own. I'm going to continue it that way.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.